Hey, welcome to a Theology Thursday. This is Thursday when we're recording it. It may take a minute to get this out to you. So if you're watching this on Friday, I don't know, something happened. I want to talk to you today on Theology Thursday about abortion. Specifically, I want to talk about the Texas abortion bill. If you've been paying attention to the news, you'll notice that Texas passed something called a fetal heartbeat bill. What this did effectively was it's going to effectively ban or seriously restrict abortions after a heartbeat is detected in a human, in a baby. At 6 weeks, they can detect a heartbeat. So this will be effectively a extraordinary limit on the number of abortions in the state of Texas. Well, the state Justice Department has already sued the state of Texas, calling this illegal. We'll see what happens in the days ahead. What's been fascinating is the cultural response to this. It's been new and fresh and alarming in some respects. So I want to take a little time to remind us of our arguments for why, as Christians, we support a pro-life agenda, and then kind of walk through some of the counter-arguments that have been happening online, and you're going to hear in the next coming days from pro-choice, pro-abortion advocates in the days ahead. One quick thing. The old way pro-choice, pro-abortion advocates used to argue for why abortion should be allowed was because they said that what was growing inside of the mother was just a clump of cells. So, it's like an appendix or tonsils or, something like that. So it's not a human being yet, was their case. The problem with that has been science. So 50 years have gone by. We have highly developed ultrasound technology. We have amazing studies in embryology and biology and philosophy. And it's been pretty much a unified voice from all corners of scientific study that what is growing inside the mother's womb is actually a live, thriving human being. I mean, it is 100% human. And so people have moved on from so it's just not true that it's just a clump of cells. It's not just a clump of cells. People have concluded through all these scientific studies over the past 50 years that it's not just a clump of cells. In fact, it is fully human, alive and thriving. Now, what's alarming is the new argument that's emerged over the last 15 to 20 years has been pro-choice advocates saying, basically they'll say, it is human, but it's in my body, and therefore I have the right to remove what is growing involuntarily, in some cases, within my body. More effectively and more honestly, people have been saying, I can dispose of, kill, and remove whatever is in my body that I don't want. If it's a human, fine, call it human. But I have the right to determine whether it lives or dies. Now, that's an alarming thing. And what you're going to hear it's an alarming thing, but it's more common than you might realize. What you're going to hear over the next coming days from probably our president, for sure our vice president, and also from the lead champions for pro-choice causes, is you're going to hear things like, we have to make sure that women have the right to their own reproductive health. That's what you're going to hear. And what that implies is that pro-life advocates don't care about women's reproductive health. But that's just ridiculous. I don't know anybody in my congregation, anybody in this town, I've never met anybody anywhere who is a pro-life advocate that says, you know what, guys, I really can't stand women's reproductive health. You hear people say, we really have to protect women's reproductive choice. Same thing. I don't know anybody who's a pro-life champion who says, you know what, guys, we gotta make sure women don't have a choice in how they reproduce. I don't know anybody who says that. In fact, most people I know, at least in our congregation, of course acknowledge that it's a good thing for couples and families to think through, childbearing and reproduction and that kind of stuff. So it's just not true that pro-life advocates don't care for reproductive health or reproductive choice. Why do they use that language? It's because it's code. It's code language. It's a distraction, and it's language that has to be ciphered. What they are not saying, but what they're actually saying is, we believe we should keep a constitutional right to kill certain human beings as long as they're in the womb. Pro-choice advocates will rarely, if ever, say that out loud because it is so ugly. It sounds so immoral. But I think we ought to make no mistake. That is exactly what reproductive choice or reproductive health means in the coming discussions. Reproductive choice is code language for the right to kill. As I say, what is shocking over the last week, at least to me, about this Texas abortion bill is the amount of passion it has generated in surprising circles. So what I've seen is a handful, not a lot, but I've seen a handful of younger Christians who seem to be more sympathetic with the pro-choice or pro-abortion position on the whole Texas abortion bill issue. And what I want to do here is just address some of these because I think it's been so kind of pronounced and prominent. So I want to address some of these and kind of prepare you for how you might be able to respond in the coming days. So here's one. This one's my favorite. This one says that we ought to have mandatory vasectomies for men until they are ready to have children. The person says, guys, we can reverse those. And so if you don't want more abortions, then you should just be willing to have your ability to make babies taken away until you're ready to have kids. And this person says, oh, you don't want a mandatory vasectomy? Because it's your body and other people shouldn't have the right to make a choice over your body. And that's supposed to be like this zinger line, that is comparable. They're trying to say this is what's happening on the other side. Pro-life people are trying to make decisions for women's bodies. And so the person says, so you wouldn't want that if you were a man and we made mandatory vasectomies because it's your body that we're trying to control. Well, first of all, I think that argument's just kind of stupid. It's funny to me, though, because the idea of federally funded and government mandated vasectomies is just kind of funny. I think it doesn't work for a number of reasons. First of all, once men get their vasectomies reversed, you're still going to have the problem of unwanted pregnancies. But the reason it doesn't work in the second place is because pro-life advocates are not trying to abuse a woman's body. Pro-life advocates are concerned about the body within the body. In other words, pro-life people don't necessarily have an agenda for what a woman does with her body. Like if a woman wants to cut off her pinky or she wants to shave off her eyebrows or she wants to undergo, transgender hormonal therapy or something like that, I don't think pro-life advocates are suggesting we need a law to prevent women from doing those kinds of things. Because I don't think women have an interest. I don't think pro-life advocates have an interest in what a woman does with her body per se. The issue is about what to do with the life within your life. Pro-life advocates are not interested in determining what a woman does with her body. They're interested in what our society does with the unborn's body, right? And I don't think we want to live in a society where adults get to decide which baby bodies we kill and don't kill. I think that's a dangerous place to be. Number two, this guy says his argument basically is that, I won't read it all, but the argument basically is this is not about abortion, this is about men trying to control women. He says this is a topic for white men to flex their power to remind women folk that they will always have to kneel to them. Which this one's also kind of funny to me, but it's surprisingly popular. I don't know why so many people like this argument. To me, it's kind of comical because I just imagine a bunch of white guys sitting around in some secret room, just sipping coffee and, staying up late and smoking cigarettes and just really nervous guys, going, I don't know how we're going to keep all the women in the world pregnant, guys. We got to really figure this out. Oh, let's start with the fetal heartbeat bill. Maybe we can keep them pregnant that way. I just think the whole thing is like ludicrous. I don't know why the guy talks about white men, and I we could go on here, but I would say white men also sitting on the Supreme Court that made Roe v. Wade legal, and no one complained about the white guys then. I don't think any of the Jews liberated in Auschwitz complained about the white guys who freed them from the prison camps. And I would also say it was a white woman who started the process of legalized abortion in the 1920s, Margaret Sanger, whose primary purpose was to control the black and brown populations in the sprawling urban areas. So the gender of who's arguing these things and the color of people who are arguing for these things is irrelevant. This is not about men controlling women. This is about people trying to keep other people alive. As far as I can see it, it works in the opposite direction. If you're looking at who is suppressing who, I would think the pro-choice advocates are trying to suppress and indeed exterminate the lives of the unborn. So if you're looking for who is oppressing who here, I don't think there's a secret room of white guys, just nervously and just have a lot of anxiety. I mean, how are we going to keep all these women pregnant? I just don't. I don't see that as a reality. In fact, I think if you're looking for where the oppression is, it seems to me that the pro-choice culture is trying to, in fact, oppress and suppress and keep legal the right to exterminate other human beings. The other arguments you're going to hear over the coming days, and I've seen Christians retweeting and subtweeting all these arguments, and to me, it's a little bit silly. Christians have been saying, if Texans really cared about the lives, if really had a pro-life ethic, they'd be concerned about the poor, financially insecure mothers, other women's issues, immigrants and living in poverty. They'd be concerned about educational access. They'd be concerned about the foster care system. They'd be concerned about the adoption system. And to that, I would just say, yeah, I think pro-life people are concerned about those things. Also want to say I think pro-life people can walk and chew gum at the same time. And we can talk about some things when there's an opportunity to, and we can talk about some things when there's another opportunity to, and we can talk about all these things concurrently. This is what we do as a society. We litigate things when there's opportunity to do them, and we work behind the scenes through charitable organizations and other means, other avenues to work towards a greater form of justice all the time, right? So when you see people saying that evangelicals or pro-life people don't care for life because we don't care for, the urban poor or those who suffer from food insecurity or something like that, just remember that is a distraction. It has nothing to do with a point. Moreover, I would say murder seems to be an important issue. I mean, to me, it seems like it's an important issue. So I think we ought to deal with all of those issues, but let's focus, in my opinion, on what is the most insane civil rights disaster in a generation. We are in the midst of trying to decide and think through as Christians whether or not we should and have the right to execute the innocent just because through no fault of their own, they were brought into existence at an inconvenient time for parents. So I think we can handle all these issues at the same time. And young people particularly, if you are persuaded by something like that, don't be. You keep your eye on the goal here and don't be distracted by what is reality. We are talking about the right for a person to live, which is the most fundamental right of all. So these babies are made in the image of God, and they have inherent dignity and value and worth. And we are not the arbiters. We do not get to decide which images of God deserve to exist or not. We are people of life from womb to tomb, from beginning to end. And we ought to advocate as such. Don't get distracted and pulled aside in these kind of ridiculous directions. First Baptist Church, we meet at 9:45 a.m. for small group discussion. At 11 o'clock, we gather for our morning worship service to honor the risen Lord. And at 6 p.m. on Sunday evenings, we're also getting ready for our Proverbs study. We're studying a life of wisdom. Our midweek children's ministry this week begins at 5:30 p.m. We'll go from 5:30 to 7. Really excited about that. Hope you and your young ones can join us. Really excited to resume that in the life of our congregation. If you have an interest in discussing these issues more, I'd encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, leave a comment below if you have an interest in discussing more about these things. I will be making you aware, though, we don't really tolerate the nasty conversation. So if you want to argue or something like that, that's fine. But if you have something uncivil to say, probably going to block you. So anyway, hope y'all doing good. Thanks for watching. It's a long Theology Thursday, but I think it's worth our time to think through this in a Christian manner. So God bless you. We'll see you soon. Touche.